Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about Hasbro and what they're doing with the packaging of various kinds of action figure lines. And some of the ones I picked up recently include this plastic-free packaging style. And I'm a little disappointed that they haven't really tried to sort of experiment with it in a way that's much more interesting, because basically they just took the existing windowed packaging design and then made a fake window on the front of the package, which depicts a photo of the character, the action figure version of the character, and you also get another full-size photo of the character over here. So this was actually to scale, but I want to point out some differences between what you actually see in this sort of simulated window versus what you actually get. And to me, that's part of the issue that I'd like to address in this video, is that most people, whether they're children or collectors, when they're going to buy an action figure, they want to be able to see the action figure, the actual thing, not just a rendering of it on the box. So the sort of sealed packaging approach, I just don't think it's really working. I think they need to have an actual window. And it doesn't mean that it has to have plastic in it either. I think a small enough window, if you could see at least the head of the figure, I think that would be useful, because at least then you could identify, yes, this is the character that I'm buying, and I'm not just going to be flying blind in terms of what I'm actually getting. So they've done this before. I bought this Destro figure not too long ago, and as you can see, the whole part of the figure is actually showing. And this kind of works because you know exactly what you're getting. The risk of this, though, is that this allows the customer to actually tamper with the figure. So, and that could be detrimental in terms of, making sure that the product doesn't get damaged. But in terms of being able to see what you're buying, yes, this actually works. And I believe this is a plastic-free packaging. It doesn't have that labeling on it. I want to talk about all this stuff too at some point in this video, because I noticed Hasbro does a lot of this sort of multiple languages stuff, and just goes overboard in terms of all of this sort of gobbledygook on the back of the packages. And I'm wondering if it's really necessary to do that, just because I see other companies producing action figures, and they don't have as much of that on their packaging. So yeah, I'm wondering, what is it about Hasbro that they feel they need to do this? So, but in terms of articulation on what I'm showing you today, these are very limited articulation figures. I'm guessing that they're aimed primarily at children rather than adult collectors. This one only has like 3 points of articulation, and the gun is not a separate piece. It's actually molded to his hand. And I'll show you that on several other figures I'm going to show you in this video as well. So you basically just get a spin at the head, and then you get shoulder articulation here and here. Nothing at the waist, nothing at the hips. So very limited articulation, it's very disappointed, and it's frustrating because the G.I. Joe name is essentially associated with highly articulated figures rather than ones that have very limited articulation. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating. But I wanted to show you that it is possible to do a packaging style where you can eliminate the plastic, but also feature the figure in a way that is more buyer friendly than the plastic-free packaging. So I bought these characters from The Mandalorian, thinking that they're basically going to be scaled down versions of the Olympus series, which I reviewed previously on my channel, the Darth Vader, the Luke Skywalker, and Mando. Basically, I reviewed all those before. And again, they are very limited articulation, particularly for the size of those, because those are, I think they're around 9 inches tall. So they really should have much better articulation at that particular scale. These ones are actually more in scale with the Black series, and I can actually show you side by side a comparison in terms of the size. So I have the Bo-Katan one out of the package. So this is the one that came in this plastic-free packaging. And as you can see, it's kind of limited in terms of like the paint deco. And you can see her backpack, jetpack, is actually molded onto the figure. But I can compare it with the Black Series version that I have. And you can see in terms of scale, they're roughly equivalent in terms of height. The helmet is a little bit bigger on the Black Series one, and obviously her jetpack is removable on the Black Series, and there's obviously a lot more articulation and also a lot more paint detail. So yeah, I'm wondering, so why is it necessary to actually produce this? Obviously, there's a huge price difference between this version and the Black Series, but I'm wondering, was it really necessary to produce this or not? So this one actually has 4 points of articulation because you got the shoulders, you also have at the head. It's on kind of like a ball joint, but it doesn't actually get too much side to side or front and back. It's mostly a swivel, and there's also waist articulation on this one. So this is actually a little bit more articulation than the Olympus series figures. But again, the weapons are actually molded onto the hands, so those are not removable as accessories. So it's pretty much just the figure itself, and you're kind of limited in terms of what you can actually do with it. So, and again, in terms of skimping on paint details, you can see they did some nice work on like her belt, but once you spin it around to the back, you can see they just stopped painting at some point, so there's no detail done on the rear, and also the inner part of her gauntlets is not painted either. So yeah, very limited in terms of paint apps, and you can tell in terms of like the helmet as well. There's a lot more detail on the Black Series helmet versus this one. So, but I guess if you're sort of a parent looking to buy 6-inch action figures for your child, maybe this is a possibility. So next we'll take a look at the Mandalorian figure, and so this is what this one looks like. And he actually comes with a removable cape, which I was kind of surprised by because the Olympus series version of it actually has the cape molded to the back of the figure. So so that's kind of a plus on this one. This also has the articulated waist. So again, 4 points of articulation, but it also has the weapon molded to the hand, just like the Olympus figure. And this one has a little bit better articulation at the head. He has front and back, side to side, and also swivel. So pretty good ball joint articulation there. But again, in terms of articulation, these are very disappointing. And I wanted to show you a little bit of difference between what you're actually getting versus what's pictured on the box. So you can see on the box that they have detailing. These little pieces here have silver highlights on them, whereas if you look at what you actually get, yeah, it doesn't have that detail. So so the box art really doesn't depict a true rendering of what you're getting. So so that's not very cool. I think if you're gonna do a fake window and basically pretend to show what the actual figure is, it should actually represent the figure correctly rather than be inaccurate to the actual figure. So again, this is why the windowless packaging, it just isn't really working. And I think it really comes down to them experimenting with some different things and not really sticking to that same style guide that they had used when the packaging actually had a window in it. And you can see in terms of the scale on this one, Mando is actually a little bit shorter than this Black Series counterpart. So in terms of Black Series figures, they have a tendency to try to adhere to scale on the various characters. So if the character is taller, then their action figure is taller. Whereas on these ones, they kind of generalize everything. So all the characters are more or less the same height. So yeah, you're not really going to get the scale correctly if you're buying these ones as opposed to the Black Series. And I also want to talk about the Grogu figure. So Grogu comes with a hover pram, and this one is actually way out of scale for these figures. And I can show you the difference. The Black Series version of Grogu, you can see his size is correctly scaled to the 6-inch scale, whereas the one that comes in this package, this windowless packaging, the $5 version, is actually more in line with my Mego collection. So I was actually kind of excited that they misscaled it. Again, it's kind of similar to what they did with the Olympus series version of Grogu as well. Is more of a 1/6 scale figure. So it actually kind of works out in terms of for my collection, because I have Mego action figures 8-inch scale, action figures in my collection. So this version actually fits in quite nicely. And he has 3 points of articulation. Basically, his head is on a ball joint, and his hands are also on ball joints. But he's kind of stuck in this sort of same position with his arms, because there's no shoulder articulation on this. But overall, I think the detail on it is pretty good. And this is probably the best of the three of these $5 figures. And so, and again, because of the scale, they didn't get the scale right. They got it more in line with a different line of action figures. It actually works out pretty well for my collection. Not what they intended to do, but it kind of worked out for me anyway. So in terms of these packages, what I think that they should be doing is trying something different in terms of not sticking with the same style guide that they were using when this was actually a window. It should be noted that, like, inside of this, each of these comes packaged in this paper bag inside of the package. This prevents the figure from actually, bopping around in there and kind of, hitting the sides of the box. That paper wrapping kind of sort of protects it. So that's kind of, the goal of that. But it should be noted, in terms of all this stuff, it's also repeated on the interior. They give this little pamphlet that has all the same information. So do they really need to use up the back of the package with all that same information? Or could they just, stick with the pamphlet that's included inside and, actually utilize the back of this package for, something else, in terms of, artwork, or, depicting, a full rendering of the figure, done kind of like this, but actually showing more of it, including the hover pram, in a much larger photograph, so you can get more of the detail instead of like this. This is so tiny that you really can't see much in terms of what you're getting. So again, I think they need to rethink this. And I wanted to give one suggestion in terms of what they could do to make a plastic see-through window without having to have the consumer throw away the plastic. Because I have action figure bases, stands in my collection that are cast in like a clear plastic. Would it be possible to actually make a window in the packaging that also doubled as an action figure stand? That's just one thought I'm putting out there. Like, make it rectangular, make it almost the size of this window, but it has the little pegs in it. So it actually is a functional piece for the action figure, but also utilizes the transparency so you can actually see the action figure through this. So I'm just saying there's things that they could be trying, because if you had this and then behind it you had the action figure, you'd be able to see what you're buying, but you don't have to throw this away. Like, this is actually useful, because what I noticed actually is these pegs, they have peg holes on the bottom of these figures which fit into this same stand. So yeah, I think that there's possibilities that they could be trying that right now they're not. And so that's the main point of my criticism. They need to try a little bit harder in terms of, making this plastic-free packaging work. And I just think maybe throw away the book on, what you've been doing and try something completely different. Hasbro, in terms of packaging, I appreciate what you're doing and trying to reduce the amount of plastic in your packaging. It's a good goal. It definitely is better for the environment. However, your execution of it is very much lacking at this point. So I'm hoping that they will try something different, and hopefully it'll be something that collectors will enjoy and want to collect. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, think about subscribing to my channel, because I will be doing more of this kind of thing in the future. Until next time, I hope you're having a great day, and may the Force be with you. Thanks for watching.